A tearful barista at a coffee shop nervously whispered to a biker, "He's right behind me." The biker paused for a moment, but what he did next left everyone around completely alone. The afternoon rush had ended at Riverside Coffee, leaving just a handful of customers scattered across worn wooden tables. Marcus adjusted his leather jacket and stepped up to the counter, ready to order his usual black coffee. The young barista behind the register had red-rimmed eyes and trembling hands as she tried to smile at him. "What can I get you?" she asked, her voice barely steady. Marcus noticed the fear immediately. He'd seen that look before, the kind that came from real danger, not just a bad day. Before he could respond, she leaned forward slightly, her eyes darting to someone behind him. "He's right behind me," she whispered, tears beginning to fall. "Please, I need help." Before we continue, let us know in the comments where you're watching from, and don't forget to like, share and subscribe to The Goodness Effect. Marcus didn't turn around. Years of riding with different clubs had taught him that sudden movements could escalate situations. Instead, he kept his eyes on the young woman, whose name tag read, Sarah, and gave a subtle nod. "Just make my coffee," he said calmly. "Take your time." Through the reflection in the metal espresso machine behind her, Marcus could make out a man seated at the corner table. Mid-30s, athletic build, wearing sunglasses indoors. His posture was too rigid, toe focused on Sarah's every movement. Sarah's hands shook as she grabbed a cup. She knocked over a container of sugar packets, and they scattered across the counter. The man at the corner table stood up abruptly, the chair scraping loudly against the floor. Marcus noticed how Sarah flinched at the sound. How her breathing quickened. How she looked like she might bolt through the back door any second. The man approached the counter with deliberate steps. Marcus continued to face forward, but every muscle in his body was ready. The other customers, a college student with headphones, an elderly couple sharing a muffin, and a woman working on her laptop, remained oblivious to the tension building at the counter. "Sarah," the man's voice was smooth but carried an edge. "You forgot to text me back last night." "I was busy, Derek," Sarah replied quietly, still working on Marcus's coffee. Her hands continued to shake, spilling grounds on the counter. "Too busy for me, after everything I've done for you." Derek moved closer, leaning against the counter beside Marcus. "We need to talk. Now." Marcus finally turned his head slightly, getting his first direct look at Derek. The man was wearing expensive cologne that didn't match his aggressive posture. His jaw was clenched tight, and beneath the sunglasses Marcus could see the tension in his face. "She's making my coffee," Marcus said simply. "Maybe give her a minute." Derek's attention snapped to Marcus, looking him up and down, taking in the leather jacket, the worn jeans, the tattoos visible on his forearms. "This doesn't concern you, old man." Marcus was only 42, but he didn't correct him. "Just waiting for my coffee." Sarah placed the cup on the counter, her eyes pleading with Marcus. "That'll be $3.50. As Marcus reached for his wallet, Derek stepped even closer to Sarah. "I'll wait outside for you. Your shift ends in 10 minutes. Don't make me come back in." The threat was clear. Sarah nodded quickly, and Derek walked toward the exit. But instead of leaving, he sat down at a table right by the door, blocking the only way out. His position was strategic, calculated. Marcus handed Sarah a $10 bill. "Keep the change. How long has this been going on?" 3 months, she whispered. "He won't leave me alone. I broke up with him 6 weeks ago, but he shows up everywhere. My apartment, my gym, here at work. He knows my schedule. He waits in the parking lot. I filed a police report, but they said without direct threats, there's nothing they can do. Today he said if I don't talk to him, he'll make sure I regret it." Marcus took a sip of his coffee, thinking. The other customers were starting to gather their things to leave. Once they were gone, Sarah would be alone with Derek watching her every move. The manager's office was dark. Nobody else was working today. "You have a car?" Marcus asked quietly. "In the back parking lot. But he'll follow me. He always does." "Does this place have a back entrance?" "Yes, through the kitchen, but it leads to the same parking lot." Marcus glanced at Derek, who was staring at them with barely contained anger. The man's knee was bouncing rapidly, a sign of agitation. Whatever was going to happen would happen soon. "Here's what we're going to do," Marcus said, pulling out his phone. "I'm going to make a call. In 5 minutes, someone's going to walk in and cause a distraction. When that happens, you grab your stuff and go out the back door. Don't run, just walk normally. Get in your car and drive to the police station downtown. Don't go home. Don't go anywhere he might expect. You understand?" Sarah's eyes widened. "Who are you calling?" "Friends who know how to handle situations like this." I can't ask you to. You're not asking, I'm offering. Marcus dialed a number he hadn't used in months. It rang twice before a gruff voice answered. Marcus, didn't expect to hear from you. Tommy, I need a favor. Riverside Coffee on Hamilton Street. I need someone here in 5 minutes to help me deal with a situation. There was a pause. What kind of situation? The kind where a young woman is being stalked and we need to get her out safely. I'm 10 minutes away. Brick and Steel are closer. They're at the auto shop on 5th. I'll send them now. Thanks, Tommy. Marcus hung up and turned back to Sarah. Help is coming. Just stay calm and keep doing your job. Derek was now standing, pacing near the door. He pulled out his phone and typed something, his jaw clenched even tighter. Sarah saw it and went pale. He just sent me a message, she whispered, looking at her phone. It says I have 5 minutes to come outside and talk to him, or he's coming back here. The college student left, headphones still on, completely unaware. The elderly couple slowly gathered their things. The woman with the laptop seemed absorbed in her work. Marcus checked his watch. 3 minutes until Tommy's friends arrived. Derek's pacing became more aggressive. He kept looking at his phone, then at Sarah, then back to his phone. The timer was counting down in his head. The rumble of motorcycles suddenly filled the street outside. 2 large bikes pulled up directly in front of the coffee shop, parking right beside Derek's sedan. 2 men dismounted, both wearing leather vests, and looking like they'd just finished a long ride. Brick was a massive man with a grey beard, and Steele was leaner, but had the kind of eyes that had seen plenty of trouble. They walked into the coffee shop with the casual confidence of people who knew how to handle themselves. Derek immediately noticed them. His pacing stopped, and he moved away from the door, back toward the corner table. Marcus, Brick called out, his voice booming. Been too long, brother. The performance was perfect. Brick and Steele walked over to the counter, completely ignoring Derek, and greeted Marcus like they were old friends catching up, which, in a way, they were. Sarah, these are my friends, Marcus said. They're going to hang out here for a bit. Steele positioned himself near the window, casually leaning against the wall but with a clear view of both Derek and the door. Brick ordered an elaborate coffee drink, asking Sarah questions about different flavors and options, keeping her engaged in conversation that seemed natural but was clearly meant to buy time. Derek watched all of this with growing frustration. He stood up and walked back to the counter, trying to insert himself into the conversation. Sarah, we need to talk, now. Brick turned slowly, as if noticing Derek for the first time. Hey man, she's helping me order. Give her a second. This is between me and her, Derek snapped. Seems like she's working, Steele added from his position by the window. Maybe come back when she's off the clock. Derek's face reddened. Who the hell are you people? Just customers getting coffee, Marcus said calmly. Same as you were. The tension in the room thickened. The elderly couple quickly left, sensing something was wrong. The woman with the laptop kept glancing up nervously but didn't move. Derek's hand moved to his pocket, and everyone tensed. But he only pulled out his phone again, typing furiously. He was texting someone, maybe calling for his own backup. Sarah, your shift must be ending soon, Brick said conversationally. You need an escort to your car. Streets can be rough these days. Yes, actually. Thank you. Derek slammed his hand on the counter. She doesn't need an escort. Sarah, stop playing games. Come outside with me right now, or I swear. Or you'll what? Marcus's voice was quiet but carried weight. Derek glared at him. This is harassment. You're all harassing me. I'm calling the police. Good idea, Steele said, pulling out his own phone. Let's all call them. I'm sure they'd be interested in hearing about why you're threatening a young woman at her workplace. Derek's confidence wavered. He hadn't expected resistance, especially not from 3 bikers who clearly weren't intimidated by him. He stepped back from the counter, his mind visibly racing through options. I'm not threatening anyone, Derek said, his voice rising. Sarah's my girlfriend. We're just having a disagreement. Ex-girlfriend, Sarah said, her voice stronger now, with others supporting her. I broke up with you. I've told you to leave me alone. I filed a police report. That report was bullshit, Derek spat. You're being dramatic. I just want to talk. She doesn't want to talk to you, Brick said flatly. So maybe it's time for you to leave. Derek laughed, but there was no humor in it. Oh, I see what this is. You got yourself some bodyguards. You think these guys are going to protect you forever? I know where you live, Sarah. I know where your mom lives. I know where your little sister goes to school. The threat hung in the air like poison. Sarah's face went white, and her hands gripped the edge of the counter. Marcus stepped forward, closing the distance between himself and Derek. He didn't touch him, didn't raise his voice, but his presence was enough to make Derek take a step back. "You just made a direct threat in front of witnesses," Marcus said. "That changes things. That's something the police actually can do something about." Steele was already on his phone with emergency services. "Yes, I'm at Riverside Coffee on Hamilton Street. There's a man here threatening a female employee. He just made threats against her family. We need officers here now." Derek's face shifted from anger to panic. He realized his mistake. In his rage, he'd said exactly the wrong thing at the wrong time in front of the wrong people. "I didn't mean that wasn't a threat. You're twisting my words." "We all heard you," the woman with the laptop spoke up, finally closing her computer. "I heard every word, and I recorded the last part on my phone." Derek looked around the coffee shop, suddenly realizing he was cornered. The three bikers blocked any aggressive move he might make. The police were on their way, and there was now video evidence of his threats. "Sarah, tell them," Derek pleaded, his tone shifting to desperation. "Tell them this is all a misunderstanding. We love each other. We're just going through a rough patch." "No," Sarah said firmly, tears streaming down her face but her voice steady. "We're not going through anything. You're stalking me. You're terrorizing me. And now you've threatened my family. I want you arrested." Derek's desperation turned back to rage in an instant. He lunged toward the counter, but Brick moved with surprising speed for such a large man, intercepting him and pinning his arms behind his back. "Don't make this worse for yourself," Brick said calmly. Derek struggled, shouting obscenities, but Brick held him firmly without excessive force. Steele moved to help, and together they kept Derek restrained but unharmed. Sirens wailed in the distance, growing closer. 2 police cruisers pulled up outside within minutes. 4 officers entered the coffee shop, taking in the scene. 3 bikers, 1 restrained man shouting about false accusations, and a crying barista behind the counter. The senior officer, a woman with sergeant's stripes, took control immediately. "Someone want to tell me what's happening here?" Marcus stepped forward. "This young woman, Sarah, is being stalked by that man, Derek. She broke up with him months ago and filed a police report. He's been following her, showing up at her workplace, and today he made direct threats against her and her family. Multiple witnesses heard it, and 1 person recorded it." The sergeant looked at Sarah. "Is this true?" Sarah nodded, wiping her tears. "Yes. I filed a report 6 weeks ago. Officer Mendez took my statement. Derek won't leave me alone. Today, he said if I didn't talk to him, I'd regret it. Then he mentioned my mom and my little sister." The woman with the laptop stepped forward. "I recorded this part," she said, holding up her phone. "He specifically said he knows where her mother lives, and where her sister goes to school. It is clearly a threat." The sergeant nodded to one of the other officers, who took the phone to review the video. Derek had stopped struggling, but was breathing hard, his face red with anger and fear. "Those aren't threats," Derek insisted. "I was just stating facts. I do know where her family lives." "That's not illegal. The context makes it a threat," the sergeant said. "Combined with the prior report and the witness statements, we have enough for an arrest." "This is insane. I haven't done anything wrong. Sarah, tell them." But Sarah said nothing. She just watched as the officers handcuffed Derek and read him his rights. The other customers who had witnessed parts of the confrontation were giving their statements to the remaining officers. As they led Derek toward the door, he twisted back one more time. "This isn't over, Sarah. You can't just—" "That's enough," the sergeant cut him off. "You're making more threats while being arrested. That's really not helping your case." Once Derek was placed in the back of a cruiser, the sergeant returned to take Sarah's full statement. Marcus, Brick, and Steele gave their accounts as well. The whole process took nearly an hour. When the police finally left, Sarah collapsed into a chair, exhausted from the emotional toll. The coffee shop was empty now, except for the 4 of them. "I don't know how to thank you," Sarah said to Marcus. "If you hadn't been here, if you hadn't called your friends, I don't know what would have happened." "You don't need to thank us," Marcus said. "You needed help. We helped." "But why? You don't even know me." Marcus sat down across from her. "Years ago, my sister was in a similar situation. Someone wouldn't leave her alone, kept showing up, making her life miserable. One day, a stranger stepped in and helped her get away safely. That stranger didn't know her either, but he helped anyway. He told her that when we see someone in trouble, we help. Simple as that." Brick and Steele stayed for another hour, making sure Sarah felt safe enough to leave. They followed her car to her apartment, checked the area, and gave her their phone numbers in case Derek somehow made bail and showed up again. But Derek didn't make bail that night. The combination of the stalking report, the recorded threats, and the violations of his restraining order, which Sarah hadn't even known she could have gotten until the sergeant explained it to her, meant he was held pending a hearing. The next morning, Marcus stopped by the coffee shop again. Sarah was there, and she looked like she'd actually slept for the first time in weeks. "How are you holding up?" Marcus asked. "Better," Sarah said, and she managed a genuine smile. "The police called this morning. Derek's being charged with stalking, making terroristic threats, and violation of protective order. They said with the video evidence, and all the witnesses, the case is strong. He'll probably face actual jail time." "That's good news." The manager also came in early. "I told her everything," showed her the police report. "She said I should have told her sooner, but she understands why I was scared. She's changing all my shifts to when there are multiple people working, and she's installing a better security camera system." "Smart moves." Sarah made Marcus his usual black coffee, her hands steady this time. "I've been thinking about what you said yesterday. About your sister. Did things work out okay for her?" Marcus smiled. "She's doing great now. Married, 2 kids, runs her own business. It took time for her to feel safe again, but she got there. You will too." "I hope so. I still jump every time the door opens, expecting to see him." "That's normal. It'll get easier." The door did open then, and Sarah tensed, but it was just a regular customer ordering a complicated latte. Life was returning to normal, bit by bit. Before Marcus left, Sarah stopped him. "Can I ask you something? When I whispered that he was behind me, you didn't panic. You didn't make a scene. You just handled it. How did you know what to do?" Marcus thought about how to answer. "I've been in difficult situations before, different contexts, but the principle is the same. When someone's in danger, you stay calm, you assess the situation, and you act. Making a scene might have set Derek off. Ignoring you would have left you vulnerable, so I did what seemed right. I bought time, called for backup, and made sure you weren't alone. Not everyone would have done that. Maybe not, but more people should." 3 months later, Marcus was riding through a different part of town when he stopped at a red light. A woman was standing on the corner, crying, with a man yelling at her and grabbing her arm. The pedestrians walked past, avoiding eye contact, not wanting to get involved. Marcus pulled his bike to the curb and turned off the engine. The man noticed him approaching. "Keep walking, buddy. This is between me and my wife." "I'm not your buddy," Marcus said calmly, "and she doesn't look like she wants to be in this conversation." The woman looked at Marcus with desperate eyes. She mouthed the word help. Marcus pulled out his phone. "I'm calling the police. You can let go of her arm and leave, or you can explain to them why you think it's okay to grab someone in public." The man's grip loosened, and the woman pulled away, stepping behind Marcus. The man cursed, glared at both of them, but seeing Marcus's size and the attention they were drawing, he backed off and stormed away. "Are you okay?" Marcus asked the woman. She nodded, wiping tears. "Thank you. I don't know what he would have done if you hadn't stopped." Marcus waited with her until she felt safe enough to call a friend to pick her up. As he got back on his bike, he thought about Sarah, about his sister, about all the people who found themselves in situations where they needed someone to simply notice and care enough to help. The following week, Marcus met up with Tommy, Brick, and Steele at their usual spot, a dive bar that served decent burgers. They were laughing about something when Sarah walked in, surprising all of them. "Sarah? What are you doing here?" Marcus asked. She smiled, looking more confident than she had months ago. "I wanted to thank all of you properly, and I wanted to tell you something." Derek pleaded guilty. He got 2 years, with mandatory counseling. The judge also issued a permanent protective order. When he gets out, he's not allowed within 500 feet of me or my family. "That's great news," Brick said, raising his beer. "But that's not the only reason I'm here," Sarah continued. "What you all did for me, stepping in, helping a stranger, it changed everything for me. I've been thinking about it a lot. I start training next month." "Training for what?" Steele asked. "Police Academy. I'm going to become a cop. I want to help people the way you helped me. I want to be someone who steps in when others look away." Marcus felt pride swell in his chest. This was how it worked. One person helped another, and that person went on to help more. The chain continued, growing stronger with each link. "You're going to be great at it," Marcus said. Sarah stayed for a while, sharing a meal with them, swapping stories. When she finally left, Tommy turned to Marcus. You know what you started, right? That girl's going to help a lot of people. Wasn't me, Marcus said. Was all of us. And the person who helped my sister before that. And whoever helped them. It's always been about people looking out for each other. Still, Tommy said, not everyone stops. Not everyone makes that choice. You did. Marcus thought back to that afternoon at Riverside Coffee, to Sarah's whispered plea, to the fear in her eyes. He thought about how close she'd come to facing Derek alone, and what might have happened if he'd just ordered his coffee and left. But he hadn't left, he'd stayed, he'd helped, and now Sarah would help others. That was enough. As Marcus rode home that evening, the sun setting behind him, he thought about all the small moments that led to big changes. A whispered cry for help, a phone call to friends, a decision to get involved instead of walking away. Everyone had those moments, chances to step in, to make a difference, to be the person someone else desperately needed. Most people walked past. They had their reasons, their fears, their own problems to deal with. But some people stopped. Some people helped. And that made all the difference. 6 months after Sarah joined the police academy, Marcus received an unexpected call. It was from a number he didn't recognize, but something told him to answer. Is this Marcus? A young voice asked nervously. Speaking. Who's this? My name is Jennifer. Sarah gave me your number. She said, you help people. Marcus pulled his bike over to the side of the road. What's going on, Jennifer? My roommate has a boyfriend who scares me. He comes over all the time, even when she asks him not to. Last night I heard them fighting. She was crying, telling him to leave, but he wouldn't. This morning she had a bruise on her face. She says she fell, but I don't believe her. I don't know what to do. Marcus listened carefully. Where are you right now? At work. I'm a waitress at Lorenzo's restaurant downtown. My roommate, Katie, she's at home. Her boyfriend left for work an hour ago, but he'll be back tonight. I'm scared for her, but she won't listen to me. She keeps making excuses for him. Does Katie want help? There was a long pause. I don't know. She's scared. She loves him, but she's also terrified of him. Does that make sense? It makes perfect sense. That's how these situations work. Listen, I'm going to give you some numbers for domestic violence resources. They have counselors who specialize in talking to people in Katie's situation. They can help her see her options. But what if he comes back tonight and hurts her? What if talking isn't enough? Marcus understood her fear. Sometimes talking wasn't enough. Sometimes action was needed. Give me your address. I'm going to come by Lorenzo's. We'll figure this out together. 20 minutes later, Marcus walked into the restaurant. Jennifer was a petite woman in her mid-20s, wearing a server's uniform and looking exhausted. They sat in a back booth during her break. Tell me everything, Marcus said. Jennifer explained that Katie and her boyfriend, Ryan, had been together for 8 months. At first, everything seemed fine, but gradually, Ryan became possessive. He didn't like Katie going out with friends. He checked her phone constantly. He showed up at her workplace unannounced. When Katie tried to set boundaries, Ryan would apologize and promise to change, sometimes bringing flowers or gifts. But the controlling behavior always came back, worse, each time. Now, there were arguments that turned physical. The bruise on Katie's face wasn't the first. Jennifer had seen others that Katie tried to hide with makeup. I confronted Katie about it this morning, Jennifer said, her voice breaking. She got defensive. She said I don't understand their relationship. She said Ryan is just stressed about work and money. She said she knows how to handle him, but I can hear her crying in her room at night. Marcus had heard variations of this story too many times. The pattern was always similar. Isolation, control, escalation, excuses. Breaking that pattern required careful intervention. Here's what I think we should do, Marcus said. I'm going to talk to some people. We're going to set up a safety net for Katie, whether she thinks she needs it right now or not. If things escalate tonight, she'll have immediate help available, but we also need to give her information and resources without pressuring her. She has to make the decision to leave when she's ready. What if she's never ready? What if he kills her before she decides to leave? It was the question that haunted everyone who worked with domestic violence victims. The terrible reality was that leaving was often the most dangerous time. Abusers escalated when they felt control slipping away. We do everything we can to keep her safe while giving her the tools to make her own choice, Marcus said. That's all we can do. Marcus made several calls. First to Sarah, who was excelling at the academy and had connections with victim advocacy groups. Then to a counselor who specialized in domestic violence cases. then to Tommy, explaining that they might need people on standby tonight. By evening, a plan was in place. The counselor, a woman named Patricia, would accidentally run into Katie at the grocery store. Jennifer had mentioned Katie usually shopped Tuesday evenings. Patricia would strike up a friendly conversation, plant seeds about resources available, and give Katie a card with a phone number. No pressure, no judgment, just information. Meanwhile, Marcus and Tommy would be nearby, watching Ryan's patterns. If he showed up angry, if there were signs of escalation, they'd be ready to intervene. Jennifer gave them Katie's address and a description of Ryan's car. As darkness fell, Marcus and Tommy positioned their bikes a block away, with a clear view of the apartment building.
"You do this often now?" Tommy asked.
"Playing guardian angel?" "More than I used to," Marcus admitted. "Word gets around. People call. I help when I can. You're building something, whether you realize it or not. A network of people who give a damn." Marcus thought about that. It was true. After Sarah, there had been others. A teenager being bullied by gang members. An elderly man being financially exploited by his caretaker. A woman whose ex kept violating the restraining order. Each situation was different, but the core was the same. Someone vulnerable needed protection, and Marcus provided it. At 7:30, Ryan's car pulled up. He got out carrying grocery bags, which seemed normal enough. He went inside. From their vantage point, Marcus and Tommy could see lights turn on the third-floor apartment. 30 minutes passed quietly. Then Katie appeared on the small balcony, talking on her phone. Even from a distance, her body language showed distress, pacing, one arm wrapped around herself. "Something's happening," Tommy observed. The balcony door slid open behind Katie. Ryan stepped out, and even from across the street, they could see he was agitated. He grabbed Katie's phone, she reached for it, and he shoved her against the railing. Marcus was already moving. He crossed the street at a run, Tommy close behind. They reached the building entrance just as a scream echoed from above. The apartment door was locked. Marcus pounded on it. "Police, open up." It was a bluff. They weren't police, but it often worked. The door jerked open, and Ryan stood there, face flushed with anger. "What the hell do you want?" Marcus pushed past him. Katie was standing in the living room, holding her wrist, tears streaming down her face. The phone lay shattered on the floor. "Katie, are you okay?" Marcus asked. "Who are you?" Ryan demanded. "You can't just barge in here." "Your neighbor called about a disturbance," Marcus lied smoothly. "Heard screaming. Sounded like someone was in trouble. This is private, between me and my girlfriend. Get out." Tommy had positioned himself between Ryan and the door, cutting off his aggressive advance. "The lady looks hurt. Maybe we should call for medical assistance." "I'm fine," Katie said quickly, but her voice trembled. "It was an accident. I tripped." "On the balcony?" Marcus asked gently. "I saw him push you." Ryan's face went from red to pale. "You were watching us? That's harassment. I'm calling the real cops." "Go ahead," Tommy said, pulling out his phone. "We'll all wait together. I'm sure they'll be interested in hearing about those bruises on her face and arm." Katie looked between Marcus and Ryan, torn. This was the moment when the illusion cracked, when reality forced a decision. "Katie," Marcus said softly, "you don't have to stay here tonight. There are safe places you can go. People who can help. This isn't love. Love doesn't leave bruises." "Don't listen to him," Ryan said, his voice shifting to pleading. "Baby, you know I love you. I just get frustrated sometimes. You know I'd never really hurt you." "You already have hurt her," Tommy said flatly. Multiple times, from the looks of it. Katie's resolve seemed to crystallize in that moment. She looked at Ryan, really looked at him, and something in her expression changed. "I want you to leave," she said quietly. "What?" "Katie, come on. These guys are strangers. You're going to believe them over me?" "I want you to leave," she repeated, stronger this time. "Take your things. I'll mail you anything else. But I want you out, now." Ryan's face cycled through emotions, disbelief, anger, desperation. For a moment, Marcus thought he might lunge at Katie, and he tensed, ready to intervene. But Tommy's presence, combined with Marcus's calm but unmovable stance, seemed to penetrate Ryan's rage. "Fine," Ryan spat. "You'll regret this. You'll come crawling back. They always do." "I don't think so," Katie said, and despite the tears, there was strength in her voice. Ryan grabbed a jacket and his keys, shooting venomous looks at all of them. "This isn't over." "Actually, it is," Marcus said. "Katie's going to file a restraining order tomorrow. If you come near her again, you'll be arrested. Walk away now while you still can. After Ryan left, slamming the door behind him, Katie collapsed on the couch, sobbing. Marcus called Patricia, the counselor, who arrived within 15 minutes. Jennifer came right after, having been alerted by text. As Patricia talked with Katie, explaining options and resources, Marcus and Tommy stepped outside. They waited until they saw Ryan's car leave the area, then waited longer to make sure he didn't circle back. Another one saved, Tommy said. How many does that make now? Marcus didn't keep count. Each person was a life changed, a cycle broken, a chance at something better. Numbers didn't matter. The action did. His phone buzzed. A text from Sarah. Heard what happened tonight. Thank you for helping my friend's roommate. This chain keeps growing. Marcus smiled. That's exactly what it was. A chain. Each person helped became part of the network, reaching out to others, creating connections of safety and support. What started with a whispered plea at a coffee shop had grown into something larger than he'd imagined. And it would keep growing, because people like Katie would remember this night. They'd remember that strangers stepped in when they needed help most. And someday, when they saw someone else in trouble, they'd step in. That was how the world changed. One intervention at a time, one brave choice at a time, one person deciding that looking away wasn't an option. Marcus mounted his bike and rode into the night, knowing his phone would ring again. Someone else would need help, and he'd be there, along with all the others who'd decided to stop being bystanders. The chain would continue.